And welcome to the live show. We are delighted to be here with our 10th LinkedIn Live, the SaaS Channel Playbook. And today our topic is Live with the Science of Partnering Trust. And I am absolutely honored to have friends, colleagues in the industry, and just some amazing people here with us today. So my name is Teresa Carrigal. I am the CEO of AchieveUnite, and I'm here with my co-host, Tanya. You want to do a quick introduction?
Hi, I'm Tanya Carrigal. I'm a PQI facilitator and enjoying working with a lot of you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Dr. Pizarro, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Renee Pizarro, a very happy client and recent user of PQI for development across my global team.
Awesome. Thank you. And Miss Daylin Wirtz.
Hello, all. My name is Daylin Wirtz. I'm the Executive Director of really indirect marketing at Comcast Business. And it's my honor to be here because we just came off a very successful program with PQI last week at our sales kickoff. So I'm very excited to share just the outcomes and the success we've seen.
And Mr. Sergio Bea.
Hello, Teresa. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm Sergio Bea. I'm Vice President of Global Enterprise and Channels at AchieveUnite, a technology vendor. And myself as well, we just came off our SKO a couple of weeks ago where we did a PQI session with my team, which we'll talk about later on.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for those of you that don't know what PQI is, it is the science of partnering trust. It actually stands for the Partnering Quotient Index. And we spent 3 years of research working with a number of universities in order to build a statistical model that would define, measure, and evaluate partnering trust. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. And let's talk about first the topic near and dear to our hearts, which is why being trustworthy matters in the workplace. Why is it a predictor of success? Like, what is this all about? And Renee, Dr. Pizarro, why don't I start with you?
Yes, thank you, Teresa. And team, I did mention this in my introduction. I work for Hewlett Packard Enterprise and I lead the global digital sales organization. We have about 1,000 sellers globally, and in sales and in any function, but particularly I would say in sales, trust with your customer, trust with your partners, trust with your teammates and your supporting functions is foundational to every single thing we do. And one of the interesting things I found about PQI as a researcher myself, the differentiator that PQI was able to offer my team, my organization, was really a data-driven, scientifically proven, validated, statistical model that measured something as historically really intangible as trust. And then the success that you're able to gain when you have trusting relationships and engagement that's based on trust, how that really accelerates things like sales cycle and engagement with your team, even career progression. There's so many dimensions of it, and this is something that was really unique. And I wanted to bring this value to my early career sellers, but also my longtime sellers as well. And we did our workshop. Oh gosh, what was it, Teresa? December?
Yeah,
second week in December. Yes, that was it. And we're right now doing our round of second virtual briefing sessions. Yeah. So Sergio, I think I'm supposed to pass it to you to get your thoughts on trust.
Yeah, talk to us about trust, Sergio.
Thank you both. So I want to give it a little bit different approach, right? In this new digital world that we're living, especially post-COVID, where we can't necessarily see each other face to face, and that it's super important when you build relationships. I think trust has become even more important than ever, right? And it's a key pillar in any human relationship. It's just beyond business, right? For all of us every day. And what I've seen is in good times, when business is thriving, when things are going well, it's kind of easier to have those relationships and have the conversations with partners, with customers, with your own team, because things are going well and the friction level is not that high. But it's in the tough times when all the things you invested in building trust with your teams, with your colleagues, with your customers, with your partners, that's the moment when they come through for you. And I've seen it multiple times. So it's to me, the trust building throughout the years is absolutely critical to business outcomes. And PQI gave us actually a phenomenal way to document that with data, right? And we all know trust is important, right? But now we can actually measure it and take action to get better at it.
It's true. The ability to define it, people, to your point, we were talking earlier, and Renee, you said people like to know and understand themselves, and it helps them improve themselves the more they understand. D-Lynn, what's your view on trust? And share with us what it's a big topic.
Yeah. Well, I'll share a kind of a real life example of what's happening. In our industry right now, there's so much M&A happening and, so much integration. And Comcast Business a year ago acquired Masergy. And that meant bringing the two teams together. And all of us have been through acquisitions before. It's never easy. And you've got these two teams with different cultures and different styles, and suddenly you're bringing them together. And, I saw it with my team. So I integrated the Masergy partner marketing team and the Comcast Business, and suddenly they're under me. And most of us had never been in the room together. And so trying to work remotely where we're scattered all over was a real challenge. And so, back in October, we all came to Evergreen, and it was life altering and, energizing. The ability for my team to be more productive, understanding each other's skill sets and how we work better together was just immediately seen, to the point where I just said, we need this for the whole organization. And so last week at the Comcast Business sales kickoff, we brought the whole sales team, the Masergy sales team, the Comcast Business, both legacy teams together, 73 people. And it absolutely just moved us ahead, I'd say at least 6 months of before just trying to struggle. And that's all about trust, is bringing those two teams together and understanding how we work together, and that one's not better than the other. It's one team. So, extremely successful for us.
Yeah, I know we talked about these relationships transcend the companies we work for. I think about you, Sergio, Daylin, Renee, several friends that, it's way deeper. And once that foundation is in place, it just makes doing the business so much easier and different.
It helps, and sorry to get in, it actually helps to have the difficult conversations.
Yeah.
When you have that foundation of trust, it's easier to have the difficult conversation because you're coming from a different side, both sides, right? And I think it's super important.
And you can lean into
and you can be candid, right? You can be candid and be able to focus on where the issues are, and understanding that you're coming from a place of wanting to make the situation better. And I think it applies also in a lot of the issues we face, particularly during this pandemic. We've had a lot of pressure in general, right? The supply chain challenges that we've had. We've had a lot of challenges just, onboarding new people that have been onboarded remotely. And, this is absolutely an accelerator of establishing also a foundation of good intention, right? And when you're coming from a place of good intention, then the the feedback is more constructive.
It's so true. And there is a high correlation between trust and safety. People feeling safe
Yes.
in the trusted environments. And Tanya, any comments after listening to
Well,
this?
yeah, and I think just, to your point, Renee, about good intention, giving people that benefit of the doubt before judging where they're coming from, I think is really important. And it's such an imperative foundation to relationships, especially in our remote world now. As you said, as you're onboarding new employees, or Dalen, your teams are remote, how do you build that trust in a remote environment? So to have something like PQI to bring everybody together to understand each other, each other's profiles, each other's strengths, each other's blind spots, I think is really imperative for that, deepening those relationships.
As you all are talking about remote, I just tell a quick story. When COVID hit, we were underway, had just begun the research, and we actually ended up altering some of the questions to make sure that we could quantify trust in this remote virtual world, because we had a feeling things were going to change. And so it's interesting to hear all of you talk about that as a result. And I think back to that 3 years ago, okay, let's talk about, because there's a lot of psychometric assessments. I know I'm going to start with Renee, you on this, because you are quite an authority on these psychometric assessments, but let's talk about those. How do they relate with PQI? Just talk about the differences. That would be great. You start us off, Dr. P.
Yeah, and I've been thank you. I've been studying different psychometrics. Like there's some very old ones, popular ones like Myers-Briggs, very much used. Recently, most popular, you have something like StrengthsFinders and DISC. There's a couple of value-based frameworks as well, and assessments from the VIA Institute, VIA, the short V. And that one's actually free, and it's a value-based assessment. And what I explain to my people when I'm working on their development is all of these are complementary to one another. The Johari window is another one around conflict resolution. And this is what I said earlier, right? People are their own favorite topic. But when you seek to understand yourself first, and you really look at the different dimensions, whether it is of your personality, your communication style, your conflict resolution approach, your cultural approach, I had never really been able to come across one that measured trust. And it is such a foundational piece for our company. We're a largely channel company. Over 70% of our solutions are sold through the channel. And over the past 85 years that the company's been in existence, if you count the HP Inc. days, the original days, it really has been a journey of trust with our channel partners. And I loved what Sergio said earlier about the good times and the bad times. In 85 years, you see a lot. I've been with the company in 26 years, mostly with the channel. You see a lot. But what's interesting from a development point of view, whether you're developing yourself or a business, is that these assessments really complement each other in different ways. And when you look at them and as you take them, you really want to take maybe one a year and focus on it. PQI has been our chosen area this year for my team. So we've taken the assessment and now we're working on our different, seeing how we recognize if they're an energizer or a strategist, right? We're working together to build a skill set, because in a digital world, which is how customers want to consume technology more and more, you need to hyper understand your ability to do that, which is that development of that trust and that communication. So that's my thought on the different assessments. They're very much complementary.
I love that. Great. And developing the muscle, you need time. It's just like physical. You need time to develop the muscle and strengthen it. And Sergio, what are your thoughts as it relates to the psychometric assessments?
Yeah, well, I agree with Renee, right? This is not meant to replace any other type of tools out there that we've all done throughout the years. I'll mention a couple of things. One is a real life example. It happened with my team 3 weeks ago when we did it. 85% of our company are engineers, right?
Yeah.
And in my team in particular, the majority are very seasoned and experienced engineers that have been in the industry for more than 20 years, right? So, and they've done tons of these, right? So I was expecting to see some sort of reaction, right? Because I know they can be very skeptical. And the level of engagement was off the charts, right? I was shocked. It was 2 hours that everyone wanted to participate. Everyone was answering the questions. Everyone was teasing each other, right? And they were all actually recognizing themselves in the outcome of PQI. And that I think is extremely important because it's a data-based tool, right? And the second thing I liked about it, and this is more personal, I felt the outcome is actually something you can action on fairly easily, right? It's not that you have to put a 12-month plan that it's going to consume, because we all know we don't have those cycles, right? But the outcome is so real and so easy for you to make little steps and improve. I thought it was very powerful. And again, I enjoy the conversations way after PQI of my team talking to each other and thinking how they could work through some of their blind spots and how they can leverage each other in front of certain customers or certain situations where maybe bringing someone else with a different approach can help the outcome of that particular engagement, right? So,
Sergio, we were talking on the way out, and I thought this was really interesting. You said, you know what? And you had this aha moment about a person on the team and how this person consumes information and how he might bring a different skill to him once he saw what his dominant personality
right.
was. And I just thought that was so fascinating, and how you triangulated that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daylin, thank you, Sergio.
Well, gosh, I just loved hearing what you were just saying, Sergio, because it was the same experience with our team when we got together and did it. And, it kind of goes back to trust and being vulnerable and sharing. And it just immediately brought down all of the walls. And, going back after being in person and going through the process and then going remote, I mean, it was just the energy, the affection, just the fun that we instantly had, and we could tease each other. And I think it gives, I can't remember who said it earlier, but it gives you permission to have those difficult conversations and to kind of raise your hand and say, Barb, why are you being like this? Let's work together. And I think many of us have taken all of these tests, and and it's never one and done. And I think as we evolve through our career, we change, our work styles change, and so it's important to do more of these and to do them with your new teams. And so for us to do it, and as the leader of the team, I feel like it was just something else in my toolkit to bring the team together, really understand the strengths. For me personally, understanding and celebrating the things I am and the things I'm not, and then really see the strengths in the team and pull that out. And so, I shifted some responsibilities in the team. I'm leaning on people more. So, for me, the outcome was really a high performing team, which translates into, ROI. So for me, it was just, and it continues to be an exciting, process.
Yeah, it was, Tanya, I think about Daylin, it was sort of magical because during your session, a couple of folks came up and they said, we think something needs to get brought out on this. And Tanya said, I think you need to do it, and so they actually role played. And it was so funny because they would share, and we said, no, it has to be trust building, so you can't fold your hands. No, it has to be trust building, so you have to say, I feel or I think. And It was so much fun, and all of a sudden people were like, "Oh, wow, that's how that works." Yeah. And a couple of people have said since then that was maybe a changing moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Very
feel
much.
like, yeah, I thought
Well,
that was
that moment, and also Dalen, I think you participating with your team in the sessions, the role play of those managers participating, and then you participating, just shows your team how committed you are and how open you are to learning about, like you said, your own strengths or areas that you want to develop as well.
Yeah,
And I think, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say one of the things that we heard, so the session was on the first day of our kickoff. I heard throughout the the 3 days, and I'd walk down the hall and kind of hear people talking about it, especially for the new people that had joined the team, and then also some of the folks from research that came over. They said, I feel appreciated, and I love that the company is investing in me. So there's the business element of it, but it's really the personal takeaways. And better understanding your own work style and understanding how you can feel. So from a morale standpoint, feeling like, wow, look at this big company is taking the time to invest in me. I mean, that's a huge takeaway.
well.
And the other thing too, I might add, is that I like about PQI is you can actually, it's not just for the individual and your teams. You can actually do this with partners and customers.
Yeah.
So now you're involving external people, which normally when you do the bricks buyers and all of those, it's really your team, or when you're doing, sales type training, it's always focused on your own team and company. This one, actually, you can extend to your partner ecosystem, to others outside the organization. That is very powerful, not only because of PQI in itself, but it's a reason actually to build trust if you're doing something like this with external companies. I think that's a huge asset of PQI.
That's a great point. Go ahead, Doug.
And Dalen mentioned something that triggered a thought for me when we did our session. We had sellers from Korea, Japan, the UK, Latin America, France, the US, Spain. And what it gave us was this new common language that crossed cultural lines. Yes. And it was it's its own little language, right? It crossed the way that we communicate in a totally different way. And these particular sellers, these were my top sellers from around the globe. And they've become, first of all, we did it on day one, which is what triggered it when Dalen said it. And then after that, the cohesiveness was insane. And these are people that generally would have very big egos, but it completely disarmed everyone, right? We're all very high achievers in the room, but it was such a wonderful way to begin the entire session. And we did carry it out throughout the time that we were together the rest of the week. So it was kind of magical. And for anyone who's thinking about doing this, I would recommend as an exercise that you do right at the start, because it enriches your level of conversation immediately. You're able to really engage in a very genuine, productive way from the go, right? So I just wanted to add that.
It was really neat. And I'm so glad that you brought up the global nature, because when we did the research, it was conducted globally. And the professors said it will work globally. And as a typical corporate gal, are you sure? Are you sure? And it was neat to see it in action. I think about the gentleman from Japan,
right?
And was, and he was very proud of his profile types. I think he had two that were dominant. It was really, it was really fun. Yeah. So let's talk about, we've talked about the individual, and I love, by the way, regardless of whether it's PQI or anything, investing in your people, the stats show 65% more likely to stay in a company where they're being invested in. So that is just incredible. But now let's talk about what can it do for intra-organizational trust, So within your company, I think we've heard some examples. And then let's go a bit deeper on why does trust matter inter-organizational, either with partners and clients? And let's just go underneath that with PQI or trust in general. So who wants to start that one? You want to start, Renee? Dr. Pizarro?
Sure. You know, this is a loaded one for us particularly, right? Because again, we've been through a rough time with supply chain, and we've been through a lot of IT transformation as well. And sometimes, right, there is a human nature element of, you know, not being as empathetic or as understanding to people that are in other functions internally. And you tend to want to, you know, point fingers or getting to a little bit of a tense dynamic. And in the end, what I would say is we fortunately had also a number of members from our enablement, HR, and finance teams that participated during the event for us. And it was really eye-opening because you no longer saw those people as, oh, those finance people or those supply chain people or those IT people. And that was really something that you kind of know, but until you see it in action, you're like, it's very hard to describe, but I think it's equally important, if not more, that we're in it together. Right.
We're in it, and the intra-organizational trust beyond cross-functionally is really, really important. And how do you get product teams and supply chains and, you know, building trust across the organization? Great example. Sergio.
Oh, I'll keep this one short. I think the outcome is going to be revenue acceleration in the end, because we are being, especially heading into a difficult year, right? We are going to be asked to do more with less. So you're going to have to rely more on your internal team, but also on your partners and your whatever go-to-market it is that you have. So just strengthening this trust factor is gonna, I have no doubt it's gonna yield revenue acceleration, because people are gonna be more willing to, you know, work what they need to work to get it done, because they feel in a trustworthy environment and they and common grounds and trying to push forward all together. So I'm really looking forward to revenue acceleration out of this.
That's right.
I think about Anthony in Asia, in Australia, and he was really, you know, and he's one of those guys, he could be skeptical about things, right? I've known him a long time. And it was sort of like, wait, if you can accelerate trust, you can accelerate time to market. If you can accelerate time to market, you can accelerate revenue, you know, and it was sort of like the equation that we started talking through during your session.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Daylin.
I mean, similar. I bring it back to ROI, and I think about, you know, what we're going through with the integration, and, you know, having these two teams that don't know each other coming back together. And, you know, one of the pieces that I loved at the end is the affirmations and the commitments we make to each other, and it brings it back to that trust. And, you know, I've heard, you know, Jack on my team, who's new to his career, saying, I was afraid to even email Lida. Now I am her, and I'm like, hey, Lida. So, you know, it just that immediate like bond, and, you know, the team saying, I feel re-energized, I feel valued, where, you know, before I think it was just, there wasn't the trust and there wasn't the collaboration, and almost maybe a little dread of like, all right, we've got to do this. And, you know, the ROI comes back to faster collaboration, successful collaboration, and more execution. And, you know, I see it big time on my team, and then, you know, seeing it up with the larger team of understanding how they're going to work together, and, you know, and excitement. I mean, morale means so much. You know, it can be intangible, but it can be very tangible when people stay heads down. And I totally agree with you, Sergio. We're going into a difficult year, and without that collaboration and that trust, things are going to start to break down.
And and I think it's important, right? And Teresa, I think everyone said it, but I'm going to reinforce it, because sometimes when maybe some of us suggest these types of exercises or these types of things. Again, some other business leaders might be skeptical as to why are you doing that? Because it does accelerate revenue and time to market. It's about making sure that we are able to stay productive and maximize productivity in a time like now that we are going into a difficult year. We do have to do more with less, right? I don't take my team offline to do these types of things just for the fun of it, right? It has to yield a very tangible financial result and outcome for my company, my partners, my customers, right? As a responsible executive, that's my number one priority. And this is definitely one of those things that allows us to do that.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we're looking to measure over time is if higher rates of collaboration, there's research, and you probably know this, that says higher rates of collaboration yield higher rates of innovation. And
Of
so
course.
can we track and prove that over time as well on kind of the other side of the productivity coin? Well, with that, thank you so much for doing, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for doing our first LinkedIn Live around the science of partnering trust. I'll maybe just go around and just say one thing as your final comment, and I appreciate you being here. So Tanya, what's your one thing?
My one thing is trust leads to high-performing teams, which yields better results.
Awesome. Thank you. Daylin.
I'll just say thank you because I feel like a more confident leader now, understanding my strengths than understanding the strengths of my team. And I just feel like there's nothing we can't do. And I hope everyone will take advantage of it because it's literally life altering, and especially, personally and professionally.
Thank you so much, Daylin. Sergio.
I would just say to all my colleagues out there, take a shot at PQI. Call Teresa, and it's going to be worth it. So I really think so. So, hopefully others can take advantage of this.
Thank you so much. Dr. Pizarro.
I want to thank you for making something that was historically perceived as a soft skill, something very tangible and something very measurable, and putting data behind it. And I know, and we'll continue to work together, and I know that others that are out there will get the same results. So I really encourage people to take advantage of this science-based approach to accelerate their teams and their revenue.
Thank you so much. And this is just the beginning. There's a lot more of exciting things to come. So thank you very much for believing in us and for partnering with us. Here's to 2023.
Thank
you for having us.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye.